Big news. The Almanac is officially back. The most exhaustive and comprehensive guide to the 2023-24 college basketball season is available for pre-order now. If you go to cbbalmanac.com, link is in the description below, you can pre-order for just $15.99 or 20% off the sticker price. The format is going to be a little bit different this season. Instead of an 850-page PDF, you'll be getting access to the full site with league-by-league PDFs available for download. The preview will be live on September 20th, so you have until then to be able to get your pre-orders in. So for insight for all 362 Division I teams, from their head coaches and the experts that cover them, make sure you hit that link. Welcome back to another episode of the Field of 68's Offseason Grades, and today we are going to be talking about the Memphis Tigers. My name is Rob Doster, and I have with me the guy that you need to know about Memphis basketball, John Martin. John, what's going on, man? I hope you're well. We got a lot to talk about with this Memphis team because there is a lot going on with this Memphis roster. Let's start first and foremost with the turnover. You lose Kendrick Davis, you lose Alex Lomax, you lose Elijah McCadden, you lose Keontae Kennedy, you lose Malcolm Dandridge, you lose basically everybody except for one of Penny's kids, and potentially DeAndre Williams. We'll get into that in a second. But you rebuilt this roster. You got a ton of new faces. I'm going to start with the transfers because I think those are the biggest names. Jahvon Quinerly, Caleb Mills, bucket getter from Florida State. David Jones, bucket getter from DePaul and St. John's. Jordan Brown, one of the best big guys transferring up in the portal. And then a late addition, Jaykwon Walton, who they kind of poached from UCF in a move that I didn't necessarily see coming. But nice freshman class, about 10 new faces coming in. Let's just start with this, man. What do you make of this roster turnover? What do you make of Penny completely rebuilding this Memphis Tigers basketball team?
I mean, it's a lot, man. And there were moments, in this cycle where you looked up and you were pretty concerned about, just the trajectory of this class. I mean, so many of those guys that you mentioned, Quinerly, David Jones, Jordan Brown, Jaykwon Walton, these guys were added after the transfer portal window for undergraduates closed. Now, these guys happen to be all graduate transfers, right? But that's a lot of production to add in June, July, August even. And is that sustainable? Is that something that you could think you're going to do every single year? Penny's always been good at adding things late, adding pieces late. He did it with Amani and Jalen Duren. 2 years ago, he added them in August and got them to reclassify. It just seems like a tough way to live, if you ask me, because I would like to know who I have, I can plan. And by the time, that those summer sessions roll around, I got my guys in here, Penny can do it, and he did it. But it just feels like a miracle. You know what I mean? You don't see teams around the country add that much production. We're not talking about one guy. Okay. One missing piece.
You're talking about your roster.
Pieces.
Your starting point guard, your starting wing,
4 starters.
Pieces. Yes.
Yeah.
You don't know if they're going to be there. You don't know where they are in July.
And then by the way, we don't know yet on DeAndre Williams. So that would be like a 5th starter added in September or August.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that real quick because we are recording this on August 9th. So keep that context in mind. DeAndre Williams is heading into his 27th year of college basketball. He's 37 years old right now. But there is a waiver because he's basically only played 4 years of actual basketball, and you get a COVID year, right? So just kind of talk through a little bit what that process is as of right now. Again, we may have an answer when this thing comes out. We may not. We probably won't because I figure this is going to be one of those things that runs until the start of the season. That's the way that it works with all this shit with the NCAA. But just kind of what do you think that he has a real chance of getting this waiver? And 2, what will that bring if he is able to play for Memphis this year?
Yes, I do think he has a good chance, and they think he has a good chance of getting that waiver because, the one thing I will give them is that ever since he enrolled at Memphis in 2020, they have been public about his, his journey and the way he was misled at going into Evansville academically by people that he trusted. And so I think because they have been very consistent with that, it's not something that they're just sort of making up ham-fisted on the fly. I tend to think, and DeAndre's attorney tends to think that will resonate and will result in the NCAA granting him that waiver. Now, we just saw a case yesterday, and the name is blanking. I think it was a football player, maybe at a Power 5 school, maybe it was Florida State, where he had
North
medical
Carolina
issues.
wide receiver Tez.
Yeah,
blanking on his last name.
But yeah, point is, it's like that. It seems like he had a good case, medical things with the family and stuff like that, and the NCAA said no. So I mean, and that was a transfer, so it's a little different, but it's not the rubber stamp always that you hope it is with the NCAA. So even though I and the attorney feel good about it, nobody knows until the NCAA weighs in. That said, it feels like he has a good case. In terms of what he brings, I think he is the difference between being able to credibly talk about Memphis as a second weekend team and another 8, 9, 10 seed type of team. I think he is the difference. I mean, I don't know if most people realize this. He averaged 17 and 8 last year. I mean, his role really kind of exploded. He went from being a guy that was happy to sacrifice, happy to sort of defer to, he was really, really good. I think he shot 40% from 3 last year. He is a great college basketball player, like great. And as you mentioned, he's our Memphis Mormon. He's been in college for a long, long time. And so that experience you just don't find around the country. It's not easy. So yeah, they need him, man. I mean, and if they get him, I don't personally believe, like everybody sort of, I've seen the, national consensus is like, oh, if Memphis gets, they're a top 20-ish team. You could speak better to this than I could, but I don't know how you could say there's 15 rosters top to bottom in the country that you would pick above Memphis with DeAndre.
I don't think that there are. I think the questions that I have, one is like, what is Jahvon Quinerly going to be when he is a full-time point guard at a program, right? Like, we've seen him kind of share that role for the last couple of years at Alabama, and he was really good at times, and there were times when you were kind of like, JQ, what are you doing? What's happening here, right? So giving him the keys and letting him run that program after Kendrick Davis did what he did last year. I don't know what the answer is. I would bet on him being pretty good. He's 25 years old. He's been around the block. He is very experienced. He's seen the world. He's the wild thing. It's just crazy that he's still in college, because he was one of the biggest names that was involved in the FBI scandal back in September of 2017 when that whole thing broke. Remember his recruitment to Arizona that was, involved with Book Richardson. Got all those guys involved. So he's been around. That's a long time. Yeah, he's been around ever. No, but I think giving him like a full-time point guard role is going to be interesting to see how that works out. I love the addition of Caleb Mills. Like, just he's an absolute bucket getter. I think David Jones is a really effective player to kind of put on the wing. No one's talking enough about Jaykwon Walton, I don't think. I know he had the issue with the gun over the summer, and he was involved with 4 different college basketball programs this offseason. Started at Wichita State, committed to Alabama, wasn't going to get accepted at Alabama, committed to UCF, and then kind of out of nowhere he committed to Memphis. So
I feel like this deserves like a Hall of Fame induction. Like, you're hitting for one off season.
Yeah,
like that's insane.
That's an all-time offseason for him. But I mean, he's a big athletic wing that can really shoot it, like a perfect role player. And then again, Jordan Brown, he's big, he's old. Are there issues with him eligibility wise? Is he going to be able to play right away? Yeah, is he going to be able to play day one?
They expect. I mean, they took him on the Dominican Republic trip, and so I think that's a signal that they don't expect there to be any hiccups. I mean, I know there was definitely talk about that. We all heard it. That he was at least going to. The scuttle was that he was going to have to set out a semester to get his grades right, and that there were some credit issues. But it sounds like and looks like Memphis is expecting him to be, and they need him. By the way, I think again. You don't have Jordan Brown, and he wasn't in shape in the Dominican, and he, like, you could tell he was really laboring getting up and down the floor. But if you don't have him, I don't think most people realize the non-conference schedule that Memphis is playing. And they're playing in the Battle for Atlantis. They're playing Texas A&M. They're playing Virginia. They're playing Missouri at Missouri. They're playing Clemson. I believe I don't know exactly where that game starts, but they're playing Clemson. Like, they're playing a very difficult schedule in the non-conference. So if they don't have their pieces, everybody, DeAndre, Jordan, et cetera, they're not going to get out of that, hole basically, and that is botching an opportunity to finally get out of that dreaded 8-9 slot. I mean, if you do this right and you can find a way, let's just say there's 10 non-conference games, right? If you can find a way, if you're Memphis, to go 6-4, and then, ideally, I know we're going to talk about FAU, get, win your league, that's a top 4 seed. I mean, I believe with that schedule, if you come out of it the right way.
It depends on who they beat, but like they'll be in a very good spot, especially
right. Well, of course, yeah.
In conference play. Like if you obviously
sure.
FAU is moving to the American this year, so there's going to be no Houston. But if you pick off FAU one time and then
you're going to have to beat FAU once, yeah.
But they're in a spot. They're in a spot to be able to make a run. So let's just, for the sake of argument, right? Yep. Let's assume that you have DeAndre Williams. Let's assume that Jordan Brown is there the entire season. Let's assume that you basically have like that 6-man core right there: Jahvon, Quinerly, Caleb Mills, David Jones, Jaykwon, Walton, DeAndre Williams, Jordan Brown. You got the other kid coming in from UCF. You got some good freshmen. Jaden Hardaway, obviously he's back. Ashton Hardaway coming in. What is a realistic expectation for that team right there?
I mean, I think that's got to be a second weekend team. I mean, that's got to be the expectation. Rosters like the combination, as Drake would say, combination of talent, experience coming together in the same year like this, especially with the timing of it, right? How sort of fortunate you were to get all these guys. You didn't have them for the first 3 months. You got them in June, July, August. I just think that's going to be hard to repeat every single year. So Penny's going to get players, like that's the one thing I think we have to, that's just a default setting. We know he's going to get players, but can you get, this is 2 straight years of getting a Kendrick Davis and Jahvon Quinerly. I think Jahvon Quinerly is sort of the key to it because he's sacrificed in the past. He's gone from being a starter on an SEC champion to coming off the bench. After the ACL and doing it, they were still the number 1 overall seed with him on the bench. So it couldn't have been that bad, right, in terms of chemistry. So he knows what it's like in terms of sacrificing and what it takes to win at the highest level. And some of these guys, I think the challenge is not the assembly of the talent. It's not the league anymore, obviously. It's all these guys were probably the leading scorer, leading shot takers at their previous stops. Walton, Brown, Jones, Caleb Mills, all these guys were the leading shot taker. You can't all be the leading shot taker on this team. So you have to ratchet that down. And can Penny manage, older guys and get them to do that? I think he can. A lot easier than, for example, trying to play a 17-year-old reclassified Imani Bates out of position, but that is going to be the challenge. And I think that is what will determine it. That being said, if this team, it's all here, it's all together, everybody plays. If this team doesn't get to the Sweet 16, it is a huge disappointment because it has been 15 years by the time we get to 2024 since Memphis has been there, since Memphis has been to the Sweet 16. Your brand desperately needs it. So all of this is not Penny's fault, but he is the coach now and he is going to be in his 6th year. So it is absolutely time to, break through in that way.
Yeah, I don't think, and we've talked about this on your radio show before, but I don't think he gets anywhere near enough credit for the job that he has done, kind of continually growing Memphis and continually growing it in the right direction and getting this program back to a place where by the end of the year, they are very, very good. Like, I think he's done a terrific job with a lot of these specific, the specific rosters that he has, right? Like you talk about the Imani Bates here, figuring out that, hey, you know what? This 17-year-old kid, this 5-star, the superstar.
Yep.
We're not going to play with him. If it's not going to do what we need him to do, get him out of here. We'll go with Jalen Durham. We'll go with some of these older guys. I think that the team in 2021 that didn't make the tournament, that was, to me, the result of weird scheduling, a COVID year, game cancellations, all that kind of stuff, and a couple of buzzer beaters that did not go your way against Houston at the end of the season. I think if you look at the trajectory of what that 2023 team was this past season, you're a game winner away from beating a Final Four team, right? In the first round. And I think everybody had them winning a second round game. You would have played a 16 seed. You would have been in the Sweet 16. It would have happened.
Yep. So against Tennessee, by the way.
Yes.
Which would have been epic.
Yes, it would have been epic.
Brutal.
But the job that he has done, I think, is something that gets underrated and kind of gets lost nationally because they haven't had that big moment yet.
Exactly right. They haven't had the tournament success. It's just,
Mhm.
I mean, and ultimately,
but it's also they haven't like won their league because it's been all right. It's the American. You're a little bit off the beaten path right now. You haven't had those big tournament runs. The splashy kids you brought in, Monty Bates was kind of a bust. Didn't work out well for you. And then you go into and it's not like they're going 19-1 in their conference anymore because Houston was there. So you go 18-2 in the American this year, then maybe we're having a little bit of a different conversation. All right. Yeah. Grade the offseason. How would you rate what happened this offseason? You completely rebuilt the roster.
That's right. So we're going to assume DeAndre is eligible. That's all we can do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We think positive at field of 68, glass half full. And this is the grading notebook that we'll be using today. Very serious here. So let me turn to the Memphis page. Memphis for its offseason.
That's an
We're
A.
giving them an A.
That's an A.
I think it's an A offseason, Rob.
Right? Yeah, I would say I would probably go with an A minus just because
you're the plus minus guy.
Yeah, I'm a plus minus guy. I would go with an A minus simply because I think that getting these guys in late, having questions about eligibility, and all of that stuff where you're bringing so many new like you need to rebuild. It's not just like you're building a roster. You need to build this and develop this into a team with all of the contextual stuff that people love to talk about, right?
I think that's
camaraderie in the locker room. Are you built together? This, that, all that kind of stuff. Like, do these guys actually like each other? Do they know each other? Do they know how to play together? So the delayed timeline on it is the only negative that I can see here. But given all of those other circumstances and all of those other factors, he's got a top 6 that can compete with probably anyone save like 6 teams in college basketball this year.
Exactly. I agree totally.
Yeah. So I don't know how much more you could ask of Penny beyond like getting this shit figured out before the middle of August.
Exactly.
That'd be nice.
It would be nice. And I know he would like to golf. I know he would like to, be able to focus on things outside of his jobs. So, it would behoove him as well to pick up the pace a little bit in recruiting and save his fans some some tense
Is it
moments.
better for the radio business where you have questions though? Is it better for you?
Oh yeah. Come on, man. It's better for all of it. It's better for everything. I mean, plus if you're talking about adding pieces in June and July, well, that takes care of some dog days, doesn't it? I mean, that like we could do full shows on Jahvon Quinerly getting added in July, man. And we did. So yes, I actually do prefer the tardiness of his recruiting.
It's great for the content business. Maybe not good for the stress levels of the people that are invested in Memphis basketball. Listen, there you have it. It's an A minus, whatever you want to call it. Penny Hardaway has done a great job getting Memphis back to where they need to be. And here's to hoping that we're going to see the Tigers in the second weekend, if only to save the sanity of the one and only John Martin. Our partner for today's episode is Athletic Greens. I started taking AG1 during the college basketball season, and I loved the impact that it had on my energy levels. I'm a big coffee in the morning guy, but by the time that the afternoon would hit, I needed another boost. AG1 helped me tremendously, especially on those days when I didn't want to get up off the couch and go hit the gym. Their tagline is AG1 is comprehensive health and the power of habit in one. And man, that could not be more true. It's nearly impossible to eat and drink in a healthy manner in the month of February and the month of March when you are in my business. And AG1 was exactly the supplement that I needed to improve my gut health and cover my nutritional basis for the day. I've continued that into April. I've continued that into May, and I'm going to continue that the rest of the summer. All I have to do is mix a scoop of AG1 with some water or maybe add it into a smoothie, and I'm ready to go. Do it after lunch, and you'll be ready to go for the rest of the day. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/field68. That's field 68 FIELD, the number 6, the number 8, and you can get yours now. So check it out and help support this show. Thanks.